Thanks for joining us today. Before introducing Tim and Ursula, I want to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Chris, and in addition to being an Airstream owner myself, I get to work with Airstream's brand ambassadors, helping to share stories of adventure, curiosity, and exploration in their Airstream. We created Ask an Airstreamer to help connect owners with others who are curious to learn what Airstreaming is all about. I remember when I was on my journey to become an Airstream owner myself, and I found it really helpful to connect with those already using an Airstream, learn about where they go and what it's like to tow. This is our third edition of Ask an Airstreamer. If you'd like to see the others, they're online at airstream.com. We'll have an hour together today. Tim and Ursula will share with us how they use their Airstream Classic, where they've been, how they work from the road, and more. We'll stop for questions along the way and have dedicated Q&A at the end. To submit your questions at any point today, go ahead and click the Q&A button at the bottom of this screen. We'll do our best to answer all your questions, but if we run out of time, we'll share an email address at the end to submit your questions. Before I turn it over to Tim and Ursula, I want to call out three quick things. There are countless ways to use an Airstream Classic. While Tim and Ursula are going to share the way that they use theirs, keep in mind that the options are almost limitless. Secondly, there's a 2-question survey that will pop up after we wrap up today. We'd love your feedback to learn what you liked and things that we can do better in future editions. And finally, at the end of today's session, we'll share a promo code for Airstream Supply Company, which is part magazine, part travel guide, and part outfitter. So that's it for me. I'll turn it over to Tim and Ursula, Airstream ambassadors and Classic owners. Guys, thanks for sharing part of your Saturday with us.
Thank you, Chris, for introducing us, and welcome all of you who are curious about the Airstream Classic.
Broadcasting live from Yellowstone National Park. Wait a second. So if we are live streaming and we're in an Airstream, does that mean we're Airstreaming?
Oh, God. I'm Urs.
And I'm Tim. I grew up in a military family when I was a wee lad. I moved around frequently, so road life ended up becoming second. I was really involved in sports and other outdoor activities. Prior to full-timing, I was a multi-unit manager for restaurants. I had about 600 hourly employees, 36 managers, and 9 general managers working with me from Central California all the way down to the LA market, which also included Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo. Currently, I'm a domestic engineer, a wealth manager, and a life professional. I'm also the creative behind Airstream Vagabond on Instagram.
I grew up in my early childhood on the island of Oahu, spent a lot of time at the beach, having tons of family barbecues at the park, and being that little kid hanging out with mom and dad at the dive shop and going on dive charters with tourists. Late childhood, I moved to Seattle, Washington, where I transitioned to the cooler climate activities and also did some family tent camping in the Pacific Northwest and did some ski trips to the local mountains. Currently, I am a registered nurse. I work in the hospital. I've been a nurse for about 13 years, most of my years in the ICU. Last 3 years have been traveling as a nurse, and I'm also the editor of Airstream Vagabond.
We met in Bellevue, Washington, which is right outside of Seattle, about 13 years ago, back in 2007. Ursula was going to school to be a nurse, and I was a single unit restaurant manager. Snowboarding is what joined us, and outdoor sports and activities are what kept us connected. We really enjoy hiking, biking, and just taking weekend trips at the time to explore the surrounding areas. We moved to Seattle, from Seattle to Portland, and ultimately down to California for my work, where we picked up more outdoor activities, which included tent camping, stand-up paddleboarding, scuba diving, a few other things. In 2018, we decided to sell almost absolutely everything and hit the road in our Airstream. When it comes to our personalities, I like to think that we're a balanced couple, and our personalities complement each other. I'm caring, fun-loving, and adventurous. I am a free spirit, grab life by the horns, and I try to get good results with whatever is thrown my way in life. I'm a bit more spontaneous, and I am not a natural planner.
I'm adventurous, creative, caring, and have a ton of patience. I love your spontaneous tendencies, but I seem to be the one that's a little bit more thought out and more methodical about our actions.
That being said, we actually fell in love with the Airstream brand back in Portland. We lived fairly close to a dealership at the time. Oh, that's 11 years ago already. We thought that we'd love to introduce RVs into our life when we came down into the LA market. With me working so much and traveling as much as I was, we thought maybe we'd incorporate an RV or an Airstream into our lives just for little weekend trips when our schedules aligned. She wasn't working and I was. Maybe we could pack up and head out and be able to camp while I work. We visited numerous RV brands, or SOBs, as the RV world would like to call them. It stands for some other brands. And ultimately, we came back to Airstream because of everything we fell in love with when we first saw them on the road. We continued to do walkthroughs on all the units and really took our time opening up cabinets and looking at the different finishes and just getting our hands and sitting down in these units. It wasn't until the salesman actually said, "We've got one more unit to show you." And they walked us around back and showed us the Classic. And it was about where we are right now, sitting down, staring down the entire length of the Airstream, kind of looking at each other going, wow, wouldn't this be something else if we can do this? And we started really talking about, can we do this full time? So that was almost 3 years ago when we turned around and purchased our Airstream. We ended up looking at each other and going, yes, we can do this full time. We ended up flying up to Portland, I'm sorry. Flew up to Portland to pick up the Airstream. We were inundated with so many things to do, also bought a truck at the same time. And what ended up happening, I went up first, bought the truck, and Ursula up, and her dad down from Seattle.
So after my flight, I remember getting off the plane and we drove directly to Airstream where they were patiently awaiting us. They gave us the pretty much red carpet experience. Literally, there was red carpet to our Airstream, wrapped around our Airstream, and these like velvet ropes around it. And it had a sign that said, "Welcome, Tim and Urs. Congratulations on your new Airstream Classic." It was absolutely a one-of-a-kind experience. Then they gave us a good walkthrough detail inside the Airstream and on the exterior.
Mind you, I had never towed anything in my life prior to buying this Airstream. I'd never even really driven a full-size truck before. Never camped in an RV. This was just kind of a dream that both of us made out of reality. It was kind of a fun experience. Being up in Portland and living in LA, we ended up driving 1,100 miles on our first trip one way. It took us 3 days. Our first night in the RV was actually in the truck stop, trying to figure out where the sleeping arrangements were, how to work the unit, et cetera, et cetera.
How to heat it.
How to heat it. We ended up bringing Ursula's dad with us because he has a ton of experience. And I am so thankful for him. He ended up twisting my arm, if you could say that, and bringing us to a community center that was close to our house, huge parking lot. And we just sat there for half a day reversing. And at first it was like, you're not sure where the trailer is going to go. So you start moving the wheel one way, the trailer goes the other way. It was really a fantastic learning experience for me. We ended up naming our trailer Pumbaa after the Lion King, and our truck Timon after the Lion King, because long story short, we have a dog named Nala, and she actually, every single time we introduce her to someone, they always reference Lion King. So we just embraced it. Fun fact too, you can actually register your Airstream online with the company, and they'll send you this fun medallion. It has your name on it that you chose for the Airstream, as well as a VIN number. So you can use that and put that anywhere you want on display. We are...
You guys, quick question coming in here. What would you say is, and you might get into this later, so to tell me if that's the case, but what would you say is the hardest thing about just being on the road in general?
Oh, I would probably say stepping into a new routine. So when you're in a house, you have a routine. You wake up, you have your alarm clock, you have a job to go to. You come home, you make dinner, you do your laundry, and you get up and you do it all over again. When we first started Airstream, and sometimes we still have tendencies of a routine, is waking up, but we don't have an alarm clock or a job to really go to in the morning time, and we're always in a new place. So it's just like building the daily routine. I think it's the hardest.
I would absolutely agree with that. So our truck, Timon. He's a Ram 2500 long bed. That's an 8-foot bed. We have absolutely zero regrets with him. He is absolutely comfortable and filled with everything that we need to make sure that while we're traveling, we're nice and safe and high up and, like I said, comfortable. We opted for a Blue Wax hitch with a large drop that we purchased from the dealer as well. They actually hooked everything up and made sure that we were nice and level with the truck and the Airstream combo all hitched up. When we are fully hitched up, it's 54 feet from the front of the truck to the end of the Airstream, but the truck tows the Airstream with absolute ease. Our Classic weighs 10,000 pounds, and there's plenty of stopping power with that truck. There's actually an integrated braking system too that we really appreciate. So when we brake in the truck, the Airstream brakes actually engage as well. And we could go down the road nice and safe. The towing intimidations, we quickly found out on this first trip that going straight is absolutely zero problems. It just goes through, cuts through the wind like an Airstream. And what we did find out was that reversing was adaptation and challenge for us early on. We've been married for 7 years. We've been together for 13 years. And the saying in the RV world is, I'm sorry for the things that I said when I was backing up the trailer.
Yeah, very true, very true. So I think that reversing, you've done a really good job at doing that. Over the course of doing it so many times, we figured out what really works for us. And we initially started off with walkie-talkies just because it was like, you know, RV, people have walkie-talkies. Is that how they communicate? We tried it. It absolutely did not work for us. So we kind of do it old school, where we have the truck windows down, the music is off, no distractions. We will both walk the back, look for any obstacles, and figure out where we want the sewer line at and where the tire to be. Just use our voices and hand signals.
Owning the Airstream for us has been a lot about community. A lot of people, they end up thinking, man, it's a status symbol. This is the creme de la creme. And it is, in my opinion, as well. But for us, it ended up being about the pride of ownership, having something that we look at and we appreciate and we maintain over the days, weeks, months, and years. It's also an accomplishment for us that we were living the 9-to-5 dream with a beautiful home, and both of us gainfully employed, lots of friends involved in our community, and we stepping away from that and setting our mind to something that was kind of far out there and really foreign to us. That was that accomplishment that we feel hugely proud about. It's also comfortable too. This Airstream ended up matching our Sticks and Bricks home as far as some of the finishes that we'll talk about later on. And it just feels like home. The bed is also extremely comfortable. We have the opportunity while we're traveling around to stop with friends, stop with family, and park either in their driveway or on their curb. That's called mooch docking. And we actually prefer our own bed inside this thing. Like I said, it's home. Talking about the community a little bit more, there is a wonderful community that exists. I am on the Airstream forums, which has a wealth of knowledge. It's been around for years. A lot of people on there to help out, to share stories, ask questions to, and search history. So you don't have to feel like, oh man, am I asking a weird question? It is a great community enhancement as well.
So while Tim is on the forums, I'm on the Airstream Addicts on the Facebook page. It's really another good place to connect with other Airstreamers. You share stories, you see where others have traveled, and you also welcome new Airstreamers. One thing that we didn't realize is that when you get an Airstream, you also gain, like Tim had mentioned, this community. It's sort of like this Airstream family. We've had a lot of great experiences connecting with others. One of our earlier experiences, we were in Georgia, it was like last year, and we pulled into our campsite. There was another Airstreamer there, and they actually took the time to jump on their bike and come on over to us as we were setting up and introduce himself, and we swapped stories. He shared some of his Airstream tips because he's been on the road for like 10 years. And while we're towing, a lot of Airstreamers know this, but when you see an Airstream down the highway, you tend to, you spot it out, and you tend to wave in passing. And it's kind of fun to see them wave back if they see you, and it just never really gets old. So in between traveling, we also use the Airstream for work. As a travel nurse, it's really easy to find work and also Airstream. The process usually involves having a nurse recruiter search for hospital contracts in the states that I'm licensed in or states that I'm interested in working in. I submit to contracts that that look like I want to work there. Then a phone interview is done with the hospital. And if everything looks good, if I fit the job, Tim does the back work on securing the RV site. We'll talk more about budget later, but because we have zero debt, we only really need 2 contracts to finance this life, with a third contract being more optional. If I work 2 contracts, that gives us 6 months of work and 6 months of travel for the year. Adding that third contract basically gives us 1 month to explore on our way to the next contracts.
So domestic engineering, I get when we do start working, that's when my work really starts kicking in. Like Urs was saying, being a domestic engineer, lots of big job requirements that I have, such as finding the RV site, booking the RV site, and this will end up being for a longer period of time as well. I also end up interacting with the recruiters, talking with them on the phone, exchanging emails with them, and really trying to be a go-to so that Urs, while she's sleeping over, she works overnight, so she sleeps during the day, we still have a constant stream of contact with the people that are supporting us on the road. I'll also try to work with the campground that we might be staying at. That's called camp hosting, where you can help guide people to RV sites or work camping, which can also end up being general maintenance, cleaning facilities, etc. around the park. If the work camping doesn't work out for me, I'm okay reading books and just continuing to value invest and do a little bit of interactions with the stock market on a daily basis. Working the way that we've been working and traveling the way that we've been traveling actually took us into almost a natural snowbird travel, which is basically just chasing 70-degree weather. We find ourselves in the northern states during the summer and then the southern states during the winter, and then basically fit in work as we find it. Mm-hmm. Prior to full timing, we've probably saw maybe 5 states between the 2 of us. Mind you, we moved from Washington, Oregon, and California for my work. So that's 3 out of the 5 states that we've been to together. And then we probably jumped into Canada once, maybe twice to do a snowboarding trip. Since we've been full-timing though, we've spent 30,000 miles on the road and have seen 37 states. We fit in a cruise to the Western Caribbean. We traveled abroad to Greece, and we've bounced in and out of Canada a few times to camp and enjoy the scenery up there. Yeah. Actually, anytime someone asks us, what is your favorite trip? I always go back to Canada because it's so accessible, it's right there, but it seems to be something that a lot of people don't necessarily jump in and go do. But our first year highlight by far was the Canadian Rockies, Banff and Jasper, amazing wildlife, beautiful scenery, and again, easy to get to from the Pacific Northwest area where we were. Our second year was actually Nova Scotia, and then we came down the East Coast to visit friends and family. We celebrated 4th of July in Philly and Boston. It was, again, another experience all in itself. As far as Nova Scotia goes, that is by far our most exciting trip that we've done. Specifically the Bay of Fundy. And the Bay of Fundy, for those of you that don't know, experiences the largest tidal swings in the entire world. It's a daily average of about a 40-foot tide swing. So what it looks like is we stayed in an RV park that was right on the beach, and during high tide, the water surrounded the peninsula, and we were right out the front door in seconds to the ocean. And then during low tide, there's actually a picture on the screen right there. That's what it looked like during low tide. And that was about a quarter-mile walkout in some places to get to the ocean. So the water moves really fast, and it ends up being about 320 billion tons of water with a B. It's more than the entire combined flow of the world's freshwater rivers, all moving through this bay at the same time. One of the highlights on that trip was tidal bore rafting. It's the only place in the world that you can tidal bore raft as well. And all that is when that tide is coming in, as it's getting low tide or lower land, the water flow coming in pushes up and makes a wave. That initial wave is called the tidal bore. And that can be a 4 to 6 foot wave, if you imagine like a tidal wave, just kind of moving through the bay. So you can actually get on a raft and they will take you, hit that initial wave, and then as the water continues to flow in, there's these standing waves that keep on going in one spot. So you're slamming into these things, 5 foot waves, 6 foot waves, just hitting you right in the face. So again, there's another picture of us on the tidal bore rafting.
There's our action shot. That's
there's
from
the action shot.
GoPro.
The last thing about that specific area of Canada was the seafood was incredible. We had fresh caught lobster that was $7 Canadian. That basically ends up being $5 American per pound. This year, we have already traveled through Badlands National Park, Mount Rushmore, Black Hills of South Dakota, and we're currently at Yellowstone National Park, which is easily the highlight this year. Yeah,
Yellowstone National Park is our absolute favorite so far. We had no idea that this park had so many cool geological formations, and we've seen so much wildlife here. Herds of elk and bison on a daily basis. We've spotted a few grizzly bears from the road, 2 black bears wrestling in the field. Unfortunately, the campgrounds within the park are currently closed, but we got the next best thing. Our campsite is 2 blocks from the north entrance. And fun fact, we didn't know this until we got here, but Yellowstone is absolutely huge. It's actually larger than Rhode Island and Delaware combined.
So the video that's playing on your screen right now is actually taken from Airstream's Portable Park segment. This is a virtual tour of Yellowstone that lasts about 6 minutes, I think, and it ends up looping too. So I like to think that if you can't get into a national park, this is a great place to start because it will just remove you from your current surroundings and transport you into some of the most beautiful parks out there. There's also recommended campgrounds that you could find on the sites, so you can use it as partial trip planner. And right now, I believe there's 3 national parks listed on there.
So after we finish up Yellowstone here, we do have plans to head south to visit Tetons National Park. That will be our first time. And then track back north to Glacier National Park. final destination for us this year is looking at probably being Pacific Northwest. Next year, we have every intention to making it to Alaska, hoping to put together maybe a little caravan and trying to fit a trip abroad.
So now we're going to get into some of the lessons learned along the way, and some of the common questions that we actually receive too. Mind you, we're constantly learning, adapting, overcoming, and improvising to life in general. Please remember that everyone is different. Some of the things that work for us might not work for you, or we might just overcomplicate things too. So grain of salt?
Grain of
salt. Sand? Grain of sand, salt. So typically when we travel with a full tank of fresh water. This adds a little bit of extra weight for us, but it allows us to boondock and dry camp along the way. So we try to go from full hookups to boondocking or dry camping for as long as we can, and then transition back to hookups as well. Typically, we can last about 5 days off complete hookups. By the way, sorry, I'm using general RV terminology. Hookups are water, sewer, and electric, unlimited of all of those things. If you don't have the water, sewer, and electric, you have to end up conserving energy a little bit. So conserving water, conserving power, and whatnot. We end up lasting about 5 days, but if we do extreme rationing, specifically what goes down our gray tank, we can last 6, maybe 7 days. It's kind of fun. We do not carry a generator on board. We rely solely on our portable solar to keep our batteries topped off. When it comes to registration of your vehicle, since we're full timing, we don't have a sticks and bricks house. So that created a little bit of a challenge of where do we register our vehicle. When I started doing the research with that, we found out that there's pretty much only 4 or 5 options that you have, and it's all because of taxes and just the ease of being able to register your vehicle. So Texas, Nevada, South Dakota, and Florida are the ones that I could remember specifically that make it super easy to register your vehicle. We chose Florida because my parents live there. Shout out to my mom, by the way. Love you. My parents live in Florida, so that made registration super easy for us. They handle our mail. They'll forward us whatever we need, but mostly everything that comes snail mail ends up getting trashed. Registration in Florida specifically is done online or by mail, and it's every 2 years, so we don't have to necessarily get back to the state to get all those ducks in a row.
Yep.
Hey,
Our overall
quick question here around healthcare. What do you guys do for healthcare on the road, and then specifically what types of coverage get you national coverage?
Rolling the dice.
I knew that question was going to come up. That's a really good question. For us, we have healthcare when I work. The agency that I work for, both, it's not, it's pretty expensive. I mean, anywhere you go, your healthcare is going to be driving costs, but that's kind of how we roll right now is healthcare when I work.
Yep. And then after she works, we're still covered under a COBRA plan, which you'll end up paying into. There's also other forms of healthcare available, like big group buys. I know you can get with churches and religious organizations that end up getting big groups together and being able to purchase all at once as well.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Our overall budget, $2,500 is kind of our mark per month. As I said before, we have no debt, so we did benefit from the sale of our home in California to pay off our truck and our Airstream. We wanted to maintain minimal recurring monthly bills as we live this lifestyle on the road, and those really only include 2, which is our cell phone and our storage unit back in California, and that's it. All other costs sort of gets balanced out towards fuel, food, clothes, and of course, any vehicle or Airstream services that may come up and any other unexpected repairs along the way.
Yeah, nothing like having to replace all 4 of your truck tires because road debris and nails get into it randomly too. When it comes to lodging, that can also be a large expense when you're traveling. We actually first started looking at the size of the Airstream before we got into this full-time life. And what we found in our research was the size of the Airstream actually matters when you're trying to get into some of these national forests and national parks that are deep, secluded areas. They range it all by foot. So basically it's something like if you're a 25-foot travel trailer or RV in general, you could get into 100% of everything that's out there. Once you start ratcheting up to 27 foot, and then 30 feet is where we're at, we can get into about 80% of the parks out there, or the spaces out there rather. We rolled with that because once you get over 30 feet, Airstream makes a 33 Classic, for example, you can start getting sized out of a lot of parks. But to reassure everyone, we have never been sized out of any of the parks that we've ever been to. So there's always camping options. Remember, there's big RVs out there too that are 45, 50 feet long. Mm-hmm. Saving money can actually be a little counterintuitive when you're traveling full time. So the faster we travel, the more we end up spending. So fuel is actually our number one cost when we're on the road and putting miles on. So we try to break that up. We do the dry camping like we were saying. And then when we go on to RV sites, we try to stay in those RV sites for a little bit longer of a time. At 7 days, you end up getting a significant price break on the per day. And at 30 days, it is extremely affordable. I think on average, you end up spending about $30 is what we try to go per day for our lodging. And then when you're at a 30-day campsite, it ends up being like $500 for the month. Dirt cheap. When we're boondocking or dry camping, that ends up saving us that $30 per day. So you can do free overnight camping for multiple days using federal lands, that is the Bureau of Land Management or BLM lands, as well as national forests. You can actually pull off any service road in a national forest and camp for absolutely free. Overnight stays, for quick overnight single stays, we'll use rest stops, Walmarts, other big box stores like Cabela's or Big Bass Pro Shop. And then we can also use truck stops as well as needed. Mm-hmm. Truck stops are also good because you can service your tanks. If we don't want to, if we just want to dump our gray tank, for example, we're able to do that for a nominal fee, fill our water. And then if we're really jonesing for that really hot, long shower, we can also do those for relatively affordable truck stops.
Hey guys, quick question on the budget stat that you mentioned. Does that include the $2,500 a month? Does that include maintenance for the truck and the Airstream?
Yes, right now the Airstream we bought brand new and the truck we bought brand new. So the maintenance on those things, super low. Airstream requires basic maintenance, lubing hinges and filling up battery water. But for the first 2 years that we were on the road, actually now it's 3 years, there's a complete bumper to bumper warranty on Airstream. So our maintenance costs were like, you know, a lube spray or something that we might need. Yeah. For the truck, it only requires oil changes every 15,000 miles and fuel filters. So that's the only cost that we've had there, minus, again, all 4 brand new tires about 15,000 miles into our journey.
Yeah.
When it comes to staying on those full connections, water, sewer, and electric, we try to stay for at least 3 days. It seems like just rolling in and giving someone $30 just to get electric, you really don't get the benefit of that. So we try to go 3 days. Anything less, it just isn't relaxing. Ideally, we'd like to stay 7 days if there's enough in the surrounding areas to actually explore. Otherwise, what we do with those 3 days is it's general just reset for us. Mm-hmm. So we'll grocery shop, we'll clean from front to back. Oh, cleaning in 200 square feet roughly is what we have. It takes like an hour to clean everything. Detailed, deep clean. It's awesome. But we'll reset, clean. We'll enjoy a day off. Like, we just won't drive anywhere. We'll sit around, read a book. We'll lounge outside with our dog. We'll just hang out. And then again, to fill up the rest of that time, if we're staying somewhere for 7 days, we'll just explore the area. It's fun. When we're boondocking, as I said, we'll be on dry camping for about 5 days, up with the sun, down with the sun. When Earth works, as we were saying, it's a completely different ball game. We're somewhere for about 3 months, full hookups the entire time. Our exploration ends up being more of like a spider web, where we're shooting off and exploring different things, as opposed to just constantly traveling and making our way to a final destination. All of this is dependent on the free camping options as well. So if we can find free camping, we will. Otherwise, we'll end up doing quick overnights.
So to find our free overnight spots, we do use the app called Campendium. It's a great app for boondocking or, you know, dry camping. We have found some pretty awesome free camping spots in the South Dakota and Montana area, because we were just there in the last month. Campendium is free, like I said. It has really great user reviews, pictures of the sites. You have reviews of cell phone coverage for all the carriers, and it's absolutely our go-to source for boondocking needs.
We also use one other app called All Stays, which was a $10 one-time purchase. I like this one because it's just a map with all of the things that you might need when you're full-timing or when you're on the road. Rest stops, truck stops, low bridge clearances, campgrounds, Walmarts, Cabela's, et cetera, et cetera. It's all there. You click on one button and it takes you into the campsite that you're looking at, and it's a one-stop shop. It'll give you a phone number, web page, geo coordinates, physical address, everything.
Looks like their audio froze for 1 second here. Let's give them a minute to catch back up.
No.
Hey guys, you're back?
Yeah,
We're back.
Yes.
Welcome.
We got dropped.
The exciting part of being on the road. All right, can everyone hear us and see us?
Yep, yeah, we sure can. Hey, one quick question. When we're talking about boondocking and out on public lands, for folks looking for a bit more, you know, privacy and maybe not to be around so many people like you would imagine at, you know, some, you know, larger commercial campsites. Mm-hmm. What is that like? Are you, 50 feet from the next person, a mile from the next person in certain areas? Can you scene set a little bit for those folks?
We've been at boondocking spots. We were the only people there. Mm-hmm. This boondocking spot that I'm thinking of, there was really only space for a few, and it ran along a river, and we just happened to be the only ones there. I don't know if it's because we were there on a weekday, but that's how it was in our experience. Super nice. We've also had an experience where, you know, there's several RVs that are boondocking, but everyone is sort of spaced out and spaces are not marked. So you kind of just pull into an open space and you sort of just take that space as your overnight spot.
Yeah, if you end up caravanning with people, obviously you're going to be closer to. We ended up mountain biking in a national forest in Pennsylvania at one point, and there's a bike trail that's right through the national forest with campsites that are kind of all along the bike trail. In that particular instance, you can see someone, but you can't hear them. So you're far enough to enjoy your space and enjoy your privacy, for sure.
That was a really awesome spot.
Awesome, thanks.
You're welcome. All right, so First week on the road, we drive up to see sister and nieces, and the plan was to get to the other side of the Sierras via a pass that cuts through the mountain range, and we can make our reservation easy. We ended up not realizing that the sorry,
The pass was closed.
Carly, can you hear us?
Yep, guys, sure can.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we ended up realizing that the pass was actually closed, not realizing that pass was closed. So we had to drive from Central California all the way around the Sierras, passing a couple national parks, couple national forests, things that we wanted to stop and see, but we just couldn't because we had to make that reservation. So from that point on, we were like, okay, no more reservations. We're just going to get at it. The only time that we've been impacted with that zero reservations policy has been the Florida Keys, the Black Hills of South Dakota, and Yellowstone. We've gotten into every single one of those though. So the trick to traveling with no reservations is stay absolutely flexible. We don't care what site we're in, what our view looks like or anything like that, because we know that when we're there, when we're just going to be exploring the area, we're not necessarily sitting inside of the Airstream all day. We just need a safe place to park, basically. So stay flexible, and the no reservations ends up working out. But if you do need a specific site, you do want to see specific things, like there are some beautiful places in the Florida Keys that gets you right up against the water, but those things fill up about a year in advance, so just be aware. We also try to use a paper atlas that just gives us all the roads ever, and there's these little red dots on there that give us points of interest. So that's been really fun, kind of penciling our route through that, keeping track of it, dating occasionally, and circling things that we want to see as we're going.
So definitely pay attention to the weather as you're traveling as well. I use 3 apps on my phone. All 3 are free. But you can pay for the service to get like extended forecast over 24 hours. My 3 apps are WeatherBug, My Radar, and I think the Weather Channel. So all 3 of those really help to, because sometimes you might zag to avoid a storm that might be rolling in, or maybe hail, because you know hail and Airstreams don't really work. But when we travel, we do take our time, and we limit ourselves to about 200 miles a day, which typically leaves us towing anywhere between 4 and 6 hours. We have found that this pace of travel allows us to really just enjoy the ride and taking the scenery, rather than trying to cram a ton of miles in. On tow days, our typical day looks like waking up with the sun, we brew our coffee, we get a quick walk-in or workout, then we start our drive. Like Tim said, the road atlas, we take that everywhere, and we pay attention to places we want to stop at along the way. It's kind of how we found the really quirky places that you don't plan for, like the Corn Palace in South Dakota, if you've ever been or know what that is, or the Spam Museum in Minnesota. We take breaks at rest stops when we need to, and we put together a quick lunch in the Airstream. By the end of the day though, we're always pulling into our overnight spot before sundown. We never drive when it's dark out.
Quick question with the dog on the screen there. Any tips on traveling with the dog in the Airstream?
Oh,
yes. We actually have a complete slide and really cute pictures coming up next.
All right, awesome.
We have some great tips.
So with regards to memberships is another great question we end up getting. There is a ton of companies out there that are here to support our lifestyle. We actually don't take advantage of, there's one in particular that I'm thinking about. It's a man actually take all your registration, all your physical mail, and we'll send it to you along the way as you go. It's really affordable at the end of the year. It ends up being like $50 a year or something like that. So a lot of people will end up using that when they're registering their vehicles and whatnot. Since we use our family, and my mom does that for us, my dad as well. Thanks, guys. we don't take advantage of that, and the only membership we actually have currently is Good Sam. Good Sam is great because it gives you discounts at campgrounds, about 10% off, so you get your savings back instantly, or almost instantly. On top of that, it's almost dirt cheap, so $75 for 4-year membership, and they actually give you a $50 shopping credit to use at Camping World, so as long as you don't spend more than that $50, basically costs you almost nothing. All the other memberships that are out there is kind of buyer beware, so just be aware of that. Some of them treat it like timeshares. Others require you to just camp with them. So make sure that you guys end up getting on the road first, travel around, figure out what regions you like to travel or what you like to see and what you like to do, and then turn around and take advantage of the membership as those come up. Mm-hmm. Here comes the dog.
Okay, so we do have a 10-year-old Siberian Husky. She has always traveled well with us, but basically that means that she doesn't have any medical issues where there's like car sickness and anxiety. But to make travel even easier for her, we actually bought a folding dog ramp that gets her into and out of the truck because of that height difference. She owns the entire back seat when we're traveling, so she has plenty of space to get comfortable and just spread out on. Since she is a northern breed dog, we do take in consideration with the weather pattern. If it's hot outside, then we know that we probably need to have her on the AC and we're on hookups. So that's how we kind of plan that. Always carry an updated vaccination file. We do. You just never know if a campsite requires proof of vaccination. Mm-hmm. Over the 3 years, we only had one campsite that actually asked for those, and we had it, so it wasn't a problem. Even if you're close to the Canadian borders and you want to just check out Canada, make sure you have those on you too, because it makes your transition into the Canadian side a lot easier. I utilize this app called Bring Fido. It's a really great tool to quickly look up the nearest vet. Because we don't have a primary vet and we're on the road, we have to constantly look for what's local and close to us when we need it. Dog boarding services, if you need that, and pet-friendly restaurants is what it also provides you. It's basically a travel directory for your pet. In our Airstream, we have the perfect space for those really large Costco dog beds. It fits right in between the dinette and the couch. And we have a really great pet vac that helps to keep the Airstream tidy and just suck up her hair because she sheds a ton. We also have extra quick dry towels for those rainy and those muddy days. Mm-hmm. It's really rare that we just leave her in the Airstream for the entire day because she's always with us. But when we have to, it's usually for a few hours. And for a little safety net, I created a just in case emergency sign that I leave actually posted on the window of the door. So it says dog on board with our contact number. Just in case anything should happen, they can contact us.
Cooking tips. This space, although it's small, it packs a mighty punch. So we've got all the things on board that allow us to cook basically any meal that we want. We've got an RV size oven, a 3-burner propane stove, a convection microwave, and then easy electrical plugs as well to use electric kettles and whatnot. We also have an outdoor barbecue, and sometimes there are campfires that you're able to use to cook as well. But mind you or know that there is unlimited possibilities inside these Airstreams to actually cook. We did actually host a Cinco de Mayo with Airstream as well for Taco Tuesday, so that was fun getting that out there. We try to do a little bit of meal planning, so we only go shopping once a week. We fill up our freezer with proteins, and we end up buying produce and whatnot. We use up our entire fridge before we go shopping again. So it takes a little bit of meal planning, knowing what kind of proteins you have and what kind of sides you want to make. From there, we also stopped buying in bulk. I think that was a bad habit that we had to save money in a big house. You end up buying huge the things to drop the price per unit. In our case now, we end up buying single units for storage purposes, but it makes for a much more comfortable space. We don't have to store 30 rolls of hand towels. Try to keep it simple when you're cooking inside the Airstream, and try to clean as you go as well. Otherwise, you end up with a pile of dishes that you have to use.
Yep, and it's a small space, so everything gets magnified. So definitely clean up as you go. We do carry a set for 4. Basically, what that means is 4 dishes, 4 bowls, 4 cups, and 4 utensils for each person. It was one of those early conversations that we went back and forth on when we first started to pack the Airstream. Do we pack for just us or for 4? We're kind of glad that we chose 4 because it does give us the opportunity to host guests if we have them, and also to be used to help prep meals when it's just the 2 of us. It also doesn't take up much space. All of our dishes are that Corel brand, so they are chip resistant, they're microwave safe, they're super light, and they are very thin. So like I said, it takes minimal space. As you can see in the pictures, we have a nesting pot that is both stovetop, oven safe, it works well, it heats evenly. It allows us to really use all the cooking appliances, even outside if you want to cook on the outside burner. We have a little barbecue set up. That set fits really nice in our overhead cabinets, and the handle actually comes off for easy storage. We do have a small supply of paper plates and plastic utensils, and really we only use that when we boondock or just in case, but we rarely use that. If we're on full hookups, we don't have to worry so much about the water when we're cooking or doing dishes because we're on full hookups. But if we're boondocking or dry camping, we go into this water conservation mode where we pay attention to what goes down the gray tank. And technically, there is a cast iron pan in that picture. We don't really need it, but it's really nice to have, and we enjoy using it. We have the extra room, and when it's not in use, it stores grates in the oven. Okay, storage. Storage is one of the things that for us has always and constantly changed, especially when we first started out. We started off by bringing what we thought we would need and just adjusting from there. We purge annually, and if we haven't used something in 6 months, it just goes out to donation. We do laundry once a week at a local laundromat, so our closet only has about a week worth of clothes. You may have to learn how to fold your clothes differently just to utilize your space and consider using those big vacuum sealed storage bags for those seasonal items. We've done a lot of container shopping to find the best storage solutions and to help keep those smaller items in the upper cabinet safe and organized. Our Dyson vacuum, that breaks down to several pieces and it fits perfectly underneath the dinette bench. If you've been in a Classic, the dinette has the bench has a drawer and it fits right in there. We're also able to charge it as we store. Easy to grab when we need it and it doesn't get in the way.
How do we stay connected on the road? Classics are lucky. We've actually got an Airstream Connect built into this thing, and it is amazing. It broadcasts the Wi-Fi as you need it. You're able to control the unit, yeah, sometimes we have to be on park Wi-Fi. There's also local coffee shops across the US and Canada. Worst case, we're not heavy Wi-Fi or cell phone users, but we do use our cell phone for random Googling. And then if we do need to connect our computer, we'll use that for mobile tethering as well. We like to also try to stay in touch with people. So we actually share our location with our parents 100% of the time. We find ourselves texting and calling our parents almost every day, it seems like, having more phone conversations and video calls with nieces and nephews. We also send postcards out to keep in touch with the kids as well. Obviously, Instagram and Airstream Vagabond is how we try to stay connected with the general public as well. As far as modifications go on the Airstream, we're minimal. So beyond a couple Velcro signs and command strips, there's not really many changes stock from the Classic. We ended up doing most of our modifications to the truck. So again, it is an 8-foot bed. It ends up having a the top of it. We keep everything in that truck that we don't necessarily want to keep inside the Airstream. So portable solar, mountain bikes, scuba gear, snowboarding gear, miscellaneous camping gear. Some of these items that you see in the picture there too are some of those essential gears that we use frequently enough that goes beyond the standard sewer hose and leveling blocks. So we've got a large level that we use to get everything level front, back, left, and right. There is a portable pump that we use that connects to the front of the truck, and there's an extension hose that will turn around and be able to do tire pressure, fill air, release air on the Airstream and the truck. Super awesome. There's a tire pressure monitoring system as well to help us know when we need to do that, as well as some electrical adapter cords to go from 50 amp to 30 amp down to 20 amp as needed. We also do minimum TV when we're inside the Airstream. We have the ability to have satellites and all that good stuff, but we end up just doing a lot of board games for entertainment. So we also have some headlamps that we use while we're boondocking as needed. In a nutshell, we want to open it up to you guys. Chris?
Yeah, lots of great questions. Thanks for the folks who submitted them in the chat here. First one relates to the previous picture and the grill. How do you guys hook that up? Is that connected to a separate source, or do you have it tethered to the front of the Airstream and the propane tanks there?
Awesome question. So that grill is propane plumbed, and Airstream actually has a low pressure propane quick connect on the front side of the Airstream. So we're able to get a quick connect adapter for that grill and then just pop it on and off. And it's a long enough hose where we can actually bring that grill to any side of us depending on our setup. So we're not limited to just, right in front of the Airstream.
Awesome. Here's another one talking about the current environment. How has COVID impacted your travels?
With the COVID, it had a bit of impact, but not tremendous, because being in the Airstream, we're already self-contained, and we do minimal. We don't really spend a lot of money at restaurants. So going out to eat is something we don't do. We don't go to public places. But if we do have to go into a grocery store, like most people, we are protecting ourselves and others by wearing a mask.
The traveling from state to state was easy. There's no issues crossing borders. Up north where we're at right now, they actually didn't have any stay-at-home orders for South Dakota, and it's pretty open here. The good thing about this lifestyle and the people that are currently RVing as well, everyone's aware or more aware of their space. So people aren't getting 6 feet or closer than 6 feet. If we're meeting our neighbors or they invite us over for a bonfire, it's distanced naturally, which is also nice.
In terms of any modifications, I heard you a few slides ago say that you didn't make any modifications, a lot of modifications to the Airstream, hardly any. This question specifically around ground clearance. You guys like to do a lot of kind of boondocking, driving down forest roads, permanent roads, things like that. Any issues with the rear end bottoming out?
All right, so we have bottomed out a couple times. I am interested in doing the 3-inch lift that's available out there. We just haven't pulled the trigger on that just yet. What we have been doing whenever we're going to like these gnarly forest roads, if we can't physically see where we're trying to get to, we'll take the time to unhitch. Remember, whenever we get there, it's still light outside. So we have the time to unhitch, drive in with our truck and kind of scout it out. And if the road isn't nice enough or
it's
can
questionable.
You can see that steep incline where getting out is going to be an issue, or getting in, the back bumper will drag. We'll just move on to the next one, to be honest
we
with
do
you.
have our mountain bikes, so instead of unhitching, we have in the past just took our bikes out of the back of the truck and just did a little bike ride,
quick ride too,
just to survey the area.
Yep.
Awesome. This one is around Ursula. People are curious if you ever drive the rig.
Oh, yeah, I do. I do drive the rig. Tim does it pretty much most of the time. But I think it is important for, if there's two people traveling, that both people should be able drive the rig in any circumstance. You just never know if you're going to be the one behind the wheel that day.
Yeah, we end up splitting the responsibilities around for setup and breakdown. And every once in a while, we end up swapping responsibilities just to make sure that both of us know exactly what the other person is doing. So worst case scenario, one person can do it all.
Awesome. 2 questions here related to weather and environment. Any experience in colder climates or either, towing in the snow that you guys could share?
So yeah, there is, so that snowbird travel thing, the first assignment that Ursula ended up taking, we were like, oh man, there's no snow that's going to fall here. This is going to be great. First weekend, what did we get?
Snow.
Snow. So we do have minimal experience in the snow in colder climates. We've got a radiant heating system in this thing that is a dream, and it keeps it, it runs off of propane or electric and keeps this thing nice and toasty warm. As far as driving in the snow, I've done a little bit of research on driving in the snow, and most people advise if it's snowing and you need chains, you're in an Airstream. Just park and ride out the storm.
We don't tow when it's dark. We don't tow when it's snowing. We don't tow when it's like stormy.
Yeah.
Any times that you guys have either been in the Airstream or towing the Airstream with high winds or some windy weather comes through? Any issues either feeling safe while you're towing or feeling safe inside the vehicle?
Yes, yeah. We've experienced that only a couple times.
Yeah.
For the most part, like Ursula was saying, we end up trying to avoid major weather storms. And there have been a couple times where it's like almost whiteout condition rain.
Yeah.
And we'll just pull over. Again, we're taking our time. We don't have any reservations. So what's the hurry type deal when we're traveling?
That's definitely true. And the semis around you are pacing really slow. So, I mean, you don't have an excuse to go fast, and we'll just pull over to the side until it passes.
All right, and final question, if you guys could just go to the next slide so we can get the promo code for Airstream Supply Company up. There it is, and for our final question here today, what's the one unexpected tool that you have now that you didn't have when you guys drove away from the dealer lot 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago?
Oh, that's a good question.
That is a great question. What tool did we have? I think the one tool you think while I do this. So the one tool that I use is the hitch setup that we have. Came with this little rinky dinky kind of lever to break off the sway bars and everything. So I ended up buying a long, I think it's like 24-inch breaker bar with a little socket adapter. And that tool has been a godsend. It's like a one finger, one arm action, as opposed to like putting in your muscle to try to get the chains on and off.
Awesome.
Yeah, good answer. I know there's something, but I just can't think of it. I'm going to be thinking about that question all day.
Well, guys, I really appreciate it. That's all the time that we have for today. There's some unanswered questions in the chat that we didn't have a chance to get to, but if you would send those to hello@airstream.com, that's HELLO @airstream.com, we'll get them answered. And want to thank you again for spending part of your Saturday with us, and please take a moment to give us your feedback on the next screen. Have a great weekend.
All fives. Love you guys.